Hi everyone, welcome to Women in Web3 podcast that celebrate the inspiring stories of women who are shaping the future of technology. I'm your host Kenneth Chu, and in each episode we dive into the world of Web3 and explore the incredible work being done by women in blockchain, NFT, metaverse, and much more. As someone who is passionate about diversity and inclusion in tech, I create this podcast to showcase the achievement and challenges of women who are making waves in the industry. My goal is to inspire more women to get involved and help to build a world that is more equitable and inclusive for everyone. In this final episode of season 1 of Women in Web3 podcast, I'm very delighted to introduce our guest, Nadja Bester, who is the co-founder of AdLunam. She brings a wealth of diverse expertise as an entrepreneur, board members, advisor, award-winning startup mentor, speaker, author, and host of a successful podcast, The Future of NFTs. She's also an executive producer of a Netflix documentary on the future of the internet and evolution of the digital self through the use of cutting-edge technologies such as Web3, AI, and spatial computing. With nearly 2 decades of experience in marketing and communication and a former owner of 2 marketing agencies, she has a proven track record that includes a role as a former chief digital marketing officer in the pharmaceutical industry. So, without further ado, let me welcome Nadja. Hi, Nadja. Welcome.
Hey Kenneth, hey everyone. Very happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to a very interesting conversation today. My conversations with you are always interesting, so
Yes.
glad that the audience can join in today.
Yes, definitely. And finally, we make it right at the very beginning when I told you about the show, and you were like you just agreed immediately, although the timing because of some travel schedule, but at least you make it to the like being the final episode of season 1, like episode 20, right? Like I never imagined that this podcast could run into episode 20. And having you to wrap up for season 1 is such an honor. And I know that you are traveling now, flying here and there. I think it also helped to really share your experience with the audience out here. So before we start, right, there's a tradition that every guest get to post the question of the day out to the next guest. So are you ready to answer the question of the day posted by the previous
I'm ready.
guest?
I hope it's not too difficult. I don't know who your previous
Uh,
guest was, so I'll have to go hunt them down and thank them or else.
yeah, no worries. So, the question of the day posted by the previous guest is: if you could redesign the Web3 key aspects to prioritize the inclusivity, what would it be and why? Okay, I repeat again. If you could redesign the Web3 key aspect to prioritize the inclusivity, what would it be and why? Do you need some time to think
So I
about
think
it?
first, no, I can. I mean, I'll think on the go. I think firstly to say, I think that Web3 has the potential, and also already the implementation of a lot more inclusivity than other industries. So I really just want to highlight that because I think that this itself will shape also the conversation that we will have today. I've worked in other industries, and so we can talk about inclusivity in terms of being, let's say, gender. So in gender, I mean, we all know, and this is why there's a Women in Web3 podcast. That's why we are talking today. So yes, there always needs to be more inclusivity from a gender perspective. But then I think also geographically. So I've worked in other industries where depending on the country that you were born into or that you are lucky enough to live in, you get opportunities that are almost completely closed off to others. I think in Web3, this is a game changer. You meet people from all around the world, from so many different countries, countries that typically and traditionally would not get these opportunities. So yes, I think there's already inclusivity in Web3. However, now it gets to what I would love to fix, what I would love to change. And I think, this is so much to do with the mentality, depending on where you came into the industry from. So, and also when you came in. So, if you come into the industry with this mindset of, okay, this is the place to make money, think there's a massive lack of inclusivity there. And the inclusivity that I refer to is education. People are looking at the Bitcoin price. I mean, and especially now, I think the last I saw, we were at 43,000, which is crazy compared to where we were not so long ago. But then this mentality says that, Web3 is the place to make money. And that closes off everyone who doesn't understand it. Now, who is this everyone that doesn't understand it? All of us. Like, I don't think there's one person who can really, with utmost confidence, say that they understand exactly what Web3 is and all the different dimensions to it. So I think for me, inclusivity really comes down to how educated people are about it. And how do we get that education? This is a collective effort. I think, again, one of the positive aspects of Web3, it's very collaborative. It's very, it's a new space. We're all kind of supporting each other. And I think that is key to education, to inclusivity, and then ultimately to adoption, when or even if that ever happens, because it's still an open question whether it is going to be mass adopted and whether it should be mass adopted.
Wow, that is a really very massive answer to the question of the day about inclusivity and what you will do on it. So thanks a lot, Nadia, for answering this question of the day. And now we can officially kickstart with the show. So before we go into the show, especially for those who are seeing you for the first time, right, or hearing you for the first time, could you give a bit background about yourself? What were you doing before Web3, and how do you get into Web3 space?
Yeah, I mean, I think you already gave a fantastic introduction, so I couldn't do nearly as good a job. So I'm going to take it from a different angle. I think, especially because we're talking about women in Web3, my journey into technology certainly was not planned. I don't think that I grew up thinking that I was going to work in technology, because technology, I mean, I don't want to give my age away, but I was born before technology, so it really wasn't much of a thing, right? And I remember even as a young adult, I mean, yeah, technology was cool, but it certainly was not part of my world. It wasn't the kind of world that I envisioned myself to be in. And I think this is an important point, because I think even today, a lot of women feel that way. And so how I got into it is really serendipitously by accident. I started my career in psychology. That's what I was going to do with my life, and all planned out and set out to, follow this life plan. And of course, then life happens. I realized that that's not the industry for me. So I kind of bounced around. I worked in medical research for a while. And then I got into what was then known, this was like more than 10 years ago. It was known as digital marketing. Today, I mean, all marketing is digital. And so I did that not because I wanted a career in it. My son had special needs, educational needs, and I really just wanted to support the global community, especially because he started homeschooling, he started unschooling. And so I wanted to create a space for a global community of people, parents who are dealing with the same issues, to come together and, share and learn. And so I learned how to set up a website. I learned how to do social media. So all of these things were on the go. And I think that's kind of when the bug bit, because ever since then, I mean, I don't think there's been a day that I haven't worked in technology since. And it certainly is the kind of industry that I mean, industry as in the tech industry, whatever that means, in future, especially, because we have no idea what it's going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years from now. So Web3 for me was kind of the natural next evolution, but I think with an additional layer on top, because tech was cool, it was interesting, it was new, it was full of possibilities, it was a place where you get creative. But then Web3 ran so much deeper for me, because there's a philosophical aspect that came into it. So I got started working as a journalist in the Web3 space. I had just left my career in marketing and pharma. I was taking a career sabbatical, traveling the world with my son. Really thought of myself as a guy, I'm early retirement, and I'm just gonna, I literally was living on an island, reading books and lying in a hammock, like, the dream that you kind of
Wow.
say, one day I'll be doing this. And then when I got there, I mean, not to mention, it wasn't nearly as great as I thought it was going to be. I was quite bored. But then I got this opportunity to work as a journalist, and I'd always wanted to professionally work as a journalist, even just for a little while, this kind of try on another life for size. But once I started researching blockchain, I was like, oh my God, this is a game changer. And I think the biggest thing for me was understanding at a level that I've never done before how many problems in the world actually need to be solved. Because only once I discovered blockchain as the solution could I really get into the problems and go like, man, why is all this happening and why is no one doing anything about it? Here's this technology. So I want to be part of this. And I mean, I still feel that way 6, 7 years later. So yeah, fingers crossed it's going to keep on going like this, but very happy to be in the space for sure.
Yeah, so maybe can you share a bit more about what AdLumer is all about, Luna?
So
Luna.
AdLunam is a Web3 investment ecosystem. So essentially what that entails is we support startups with the entire journey from, let's say, having post acquiring seed funding all the way up until the public sale. Now, this is primarily centered around investment for the pure simple fact that, you know, a startup without any funds, a bootstrap startup is yeah, it doesn't quite have the same trajectory, and especially in this space, right? Funding is incredibly important because it's much easier to get funding in this space than it is in other industries, and that's for better or worse. And I think we're linking back to the education. That's why it's super important to be really well educated about what's happening, what's being built, and the traction, and you know, the values with which things are being built, because I think sometimes money flows too easily into the space. But so essentially what AdLunam does is we support projects with a wide variety of different things that they need in during this time period. I think, you know, the important thing, I always keep this in mind and I always say this to everyone, a lot of the founders in Web3 have never founded a company before in other industries,
Yep.
A, and B, they've never even been at the senior level of management in other industries in the careers prior to this that they are in Web3. So a lot of what we do focuses around, well, so we have an accelerator, so a startup accelerator. We have a launch pad where we actually do the public sale, the IDO it's called. But then we also really support startups and founders, especially with, you know, connecting them to our network. So we have an advisory connect, like an empaneled advisory network. We have an investor network. We have a partner network. And so I think, you know, what I was saying earlier about the importance of collaboration, this is such a particular space that if you're new to this, and it's very easy to take a direction and not understand that that's not the direction to take. And unfortunately, you know, I always say this as well, Web3 attracts the best of people and it attracts the worst of people. And I think it's super important for founders to be able to differentiate. And this really comes with well-worn experience. I mean, I can tell you any number of stories about bad experiences I've had over the years, but I've been in Web3 since 2017. My two co-founders as well. So I mean, we have walked the mile. You know, we have our own moccasins, we have other people's moccasins, and so this really is the idea behind the support that we offer at Lunam is, look, we're gonna help you hold your hand because we don't want people to not succeed, right? I think there's this mentality in Web3 that getting funds is the holy grail, but then what happens post that? What happens to the company as a whole? What happens to the sustainability of the company? So yeah, a lot of these things are the conversations and the support that we lend to founders.
Wow, that is a lot of things that's coming together. Your whole journey, and how do you come to today, right? To where you are, and what you and Elunma is doing to support a lot of founders, startup founders. So thanks a lot for sharing. And now I guess the audience has already gotten a lot of about yourself and what you are doing. So I want to really zoom into a certain part. You talk about the future, but before we talk about the future of Web3, right? This is a personal question from me to ask you, which is, why do you accept my invitation to be my guest on Women in Web3 podcast, knowing that the host is a man?
So I remember the first time that you and I spoke, you actually directly addressed this. You were like, look, I support women. I'm a man supporting women. And I remember telling you, I mean, I think that's almost even more valuable than women supporting women, because women supporting women, although not to discount that, that's super important. But as a woman, you have lived experience. You might choose to support, or you might choose not to support, the cause, let's say, of being a woman, and especially a woman in tech. But you do have personal lived experience. Men don't have the same experiences. So for you guys, it literally is a question of you getting the information secondhand. You're talking to your wife, you're talking to your mother, you're talking to your friends, your sister. You're talking to women, and through them, your eyes are open to what the challenges are that women are faced with. I have a 17-year-old son, and I mean, I know that the awareness that he has in the world is purely because he's lived with a woman for the past 17 years, and I share my challenges, I share my struggles. And that's the importance of having allies. So I think really for me, I mean, the reason I'm talking to you today, the reason that I love talking to you whenever we talk is I think it's so important for women to have allies, for men to say, look, I don't necessarily know what you mean experientially. I might observe it or I might not. I don't personally feel the same way because it's not possible for me in many cases to have the same experiences. However, I hear you. I respect you. I respect the experience that you have, and I would like to help make it better. So I think the awareness that you are raising as a man, and maybe this is part of male privilege, right? Like people listen to a male voice more than they do to a female voice. But ultimately, I think it's so powerful for men to stand with women, because we don't want to keep on talking about being women. Like, we just want to live in a world where everyone does whatever they want and whatever. Yeah, within, maybe in the crypto industry, you should never say whatever they want. So yeah, this is moral advice. Don't do everything you want. But it would be amazing to live in a world where gender is no longer a topic of discussion. But it still is, because it still needs to be. But it's an echo chamber if the only people talking about women are women. Because women know. We want men to stand with us. We want men to support us so that ultimately we don't need the support anymore and we can all just support each other as humans. Which we are, of course, already doing now, but there is an additional layer that comes into play when you're a woman, which obviously we will be talking a little bit more about today as well.
Yeah, I like the part when you talk about to support each other, right? It's like in a family, you have the father, you have the mother, you have the husband and wife, you have the brother and sisters, right? It's coming together, right, to build a better world. And you when you
Yeah,
talk about human beings, right? We should look at each other as human beings rather than all these labels like men, women, or even in US is even more complicated. But I feel that regardless, right? That's why I love about Web3. I also see the opportunity that Web3 can provide for women. And that is also the reason why I want to spotlight on women in Web3 like you, all these amazing trailblazers, women leaders, women entrepreneurs, to really show other women that this is a space that you stand a chance. Where in Web2, in Web1, in traditional world, in brick and mortar, you may not have that because you may not have the access,
100%.
correct? Because of the decentralization, because of what blockchain is giving power back to us, right? So that's why, and us is not just men, women, or anyone. It's everybody, right? Even our pets, right, may have an NFT, may have their own digital identity. So you never know, right? They could have that ownership. It's bringing ownership back to us. That's why you talk about when you realize that how blockchain can solve the worst problem, your brain lights up, right? And that's why you're focusing on in this space and supporting Web3 startup with whatever resources they need. And I agree with
Yeah,
you,
I mean,
right?
I just want to add to, because I think what you're saying is so important. The key here is that Web3 has the potential. It has the potential, and it has an inherent sense of empowerment. It doesn't mean that it is always the case. It doesn't mean that it will be that in future. I think it's an open invitation. But certainly, if you look at other industries, there's not an inherent sense of empowerment. And in Web3, it's built in. So the invitation is always open, and then it's up to us, men, women, pink, green, whatever the case may be, whoever you are and whatever your goals, your motivations, as long as they're good goals and good motivations. We don't like bad people in the space.
Yeah, for good cause,
But
right? Yeah.
whatever it is that you Exactly. Whatever you want to achieve for yourself, for the world, that looks very different for different people. But I think to start off from the common ground of how can we empower the average person better, that's not a question that's being asked in other industries. Maybe people ask this in, I don't know, charitable organizations, but then it's not empowerment. Then it's aid, right? So which industry inherently celebrates and champions empowerment? This is the only industry that I found so far, and this is why I'm still here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And when I attended my first token 2049 in Singapore, I was like mind blown. I have never attended an event that I see more female, especially in the tech event, right? I never see that much of females, especially for those female founders or whoever that is in the Web3 space, right? I'm seeing more female and attendees, including also. So I met a lot of the women in Web3 that are my guests who flew in, and we were connected and all that in person. Is like a family, right? Like really
Absolutely.
extended family. That's where when you talk about like I've never been into any industry or even a business environment, right, that you can have so much inclusivity into it. So that's where I think this is the way to go, and also for other women to really understand what is blockchain, what is Web3, and get curious about it. Like for you, right, when you were not in the tech, but it kept the curiosity, right, basically help you to understand about blockchain. And ever since then, for the past 6 7 years, you've been on it. You even set up companies to support Web3. So I think women, when you understood something and when there is an opportunity to help more people, women will step up. Women will have that drive, that courage to really help someone to achieve more. And like you mentioned, right, why Web3 can solve um, more problems, right? Because women are included into this equation, because women bring another perspective, especially in terms of
Yeah.
problem solving, in terms of solving a humanity problem, of security, right? Or and having the inclusivity into it, because other platform, other industry may not have that inclusivity. And when you include women, you're solving another 50% of the world problem, where now we
Well,
are seeing a
that
lot.
that's exactly what that's exactly what I wanted to say just now, is women form 50% of the global population. So for me, it's always, it's such a slippery slope to be talking about women in tech, women in Web3, because there are people like you whose work I massively respect and admire, because I know what you're trying to achieve. I know you're genuinely out there highlighting women, the work they do, the struggles they have, in order for people to get on an even kill. But there's so many other people in Web3 that use it almost as, this token inclusivity. So you'll have at a conference, you'll always have a panel on women in Web3. And then what do they talk about? They talk about the experience of being a woman in Web3. Now, I can tell you, as someone who speaks on these panels, who moderates these panels, I'm actually moderating a panel exactly on this today, but we will not be talking about being a woman. It just so happens that all the panelists are women. So, as someone who's been very involved with this, I can tell you that the number of people in the audience is always the lowest when it comes to this panel. Now, do we say this is because people don't want to support women? No, it's because very often the topic is really boring. I mean, let's get real about it. Women are doing incredible work. Do we always want to talk about the fact that they are women? Or do we want to get to a point, and this is really the goal, and I think it's a goal for me, it's a goal for you. Do we want to get to this point where in future tech is 50% women, like society is, Web3 is 50% women, and we don't talk about, then we can talk about the particular issues that are being faced. But I think what's important to highlight is, there's this let's say characteristic that a lot of women have. And you can see this if you've ever worked in HR, if you've ever hired people. So if there's a job application and you have your requirements, the absolute must-haves and then the nice-to-haves, women will more often than not only apply for a job if they are overqualified. Like, I mean, I've seen this personally so many times in my life. In fact, I've been this woman myself. So I know from experiential me experience and experiential hiring other people experience. Men, on the other hand, don't have this problem at all. You look at someone's resume, you look at the job description, and it's like, man, what?
We'll
Whereas
just
you
go
don't
for
see
it,
this
right?
with women. Exactly. So women in Web3, I think a lot of the reason behind why there's so few women in tech and there's so few women in Web3 is because there's this predominant notion that you need to understand all of it and you need to be technical. Now, I am not technical. I mean, I can barely figure out how to switch on the air conditioner, like whichever hotel I'm at. So you can't even fault the hotel for it. And I'm also certainly not someone who will claim to know even half of what's happening in Web3 and how it all works. So I think this is really important to kind of stress this. There's a place for you and you are welcome, no matter how much you are of something or are not of something. Because exactly like with society, everyone in society is not a doctor, is not an engineer, is not a this, is not a that. There's a place for all of us. And Web3 is really like a mini universe. So I
Yep.
think one of the barriers to entry for women is thinking, oh, I need to understand this, I need to understand that. No, you don't. I want to remind you that I started working as a journalist, writing about blockchain, and I knew nothing about it. I learned by researching. So similarly, whatever your interest, just do, just go.
Yeah.
It's, Nike has the best slogan in the world,
Just do it.
seriously, like just do it, because there's no other way. You can never get prepared. I mean, it's like going to university. You study for 4 years, whatever your discipline, then you get out into the real world.
Back to
Now your
zero.
employer has to decolonialize your mind from the education that you received at university because I mean, it's not applicable in the real world.
Yeah, you
So
have to relearn again,
similarly,
right?
don't feel like you need to get to the point where you are ready. Like this whole thing about you're born ready. Like seriously, you were born ready. Just take the next step. You learn on the go. And there are so many people to support you. I've never met people in another industry who are as supportive because we all know that this is new. We are all figuring it out. And you know what? There's nothing more beautiful than figuring stuff out with new friends that you make from all over the world. And you are all in it together. You are all supporting each other. So there's no time to wait. Just get started. And this imposter syndrome that women have, which is like really one of our biggest faults, it is a process. And thank God for getting older, because I think when I was like 10 years younger, I wouldn't even mention the word imposter syndrome because I was so crippled by it, right? Like, no, let's not go in that direction. But it's something that we need to call ourselves out on. Just because you feel that you're not ready or you're not qualified or you're not equipped, it's more often than not a lie that's being created in your mind. It's not real. It's not based on actual facts or actual reality. So yeah, didn't mean for this to turn into a motivational speech, but
No, no,
I'm
I
very
think
passionate about this.
I think it's important because like you mentioned, right, like now is the time for women to really come in because it's at the infancy stage, it is at an
Mhm.
early stage, and there's so much possibility. I wouldn't say many, it's much, it's limitless, right? If you really understand what blockchain can do, it's limitless, right? Anything, right? Especially in the different components in Web3 like AR, VR, AI, and
Yeah.
all that stuff, right? These are all add on to whatever current we have. And women can stand a chance because why the Web3 and a lot of different components in Web3 are not moving fast? Because there's not a lot other than DeFi, other than decentralized finance, a lot of other components do not have the real world use case yet, right? And that part you have to understand human. And with men coming in the tech perspective, I can tell you when I work with my CTO, his team, in terms of business, there's no connection. And who's the person to connect? I will find a women, right, who understand human beings, understand both sides, and see how to connect the dots, right? How to wrap them all up. because you need women who are natural communicator to really communicate that idea across, right? And if the women understand the tech, you are like what they call the sales engineer. You have the engineer, the knowledge, the technical knowledge. You don't have to know everything, but you have the sales which you understand your customer. And when you combine that together, that is that bridge. And for my case, because I understand women, I've been working with women for the past 14 years, starting from mothers, mompreneurs, and now with women. And furthermore, because for me, I come from the creative space, and most of us know that the Web3 really advocates creator economy. And on top of that, with the tech part, I also learned from somewhere, right? I learned it since end of 2021. When I learned it through doing it, we test out, and this is like a growing thing, right? It's like you are taking care of a baby, taking care of a puppy, right? You are growing it and you're seeing it grow. And if now is the best time for women to come in, because everybody is at the same level. Like you mentioned, even my CTO is learning something from me. I'm also learning something from him, because that's where we need to connect everything together. Because what is the point? What's the point of having a tech, right, that's so good that you cannot be used, right? So it's like a product that you created and nobody is buying it, nobody see the need of it, not relevant at all. So I think this is where women can come and finish up this puzzle, and solve the other part of the problem that men may not be able to solve for decades or centuries, right? That's where you see that more and more things are being solved by women, even the sustainability, the environment, all that stuff, which is caused by all the past generation. And now our generation, or our future generation, our children, have to be solving the problems that we created by our ancestor and all that, and now we are solving it. But now with blockchain, with Web3, I believe that we can solve even more things. I think we have covered a lot of
I want
stuff.
to I want to change my answer from earlier when you asked me why I want to be on the show. I want to be on the show because of everything you just said. I fully support every word you just said. Yeah, I just want to very briefly add there. I think if you talk about the contributions that women make. Again, I don't always like to focus on the gendered aspect of it. I will rather look at it from a biological perspective. Um, Women biologically, I mean, the way that we are hardwired because of the gender that we are, have certain contributions, and this has come all throughout the ages. We don't have to get into the history of mankind or humankind right now, but similarly for men. And so I think nature always needs to be in balance. Whenever there's an imbalance, it causes issues. And we see this in the climate, we see this in any number of instances in the natural world. So, why, if in the natural world there is a balance, a very delicate but very intricately designed, I mean, beautiful creative balance of all elements, then why not within human society? If there's an imbalance in human society, if let's get like really just hormonal about it. If we have a surplus of testosterone, but we have a deficiency of estrogen within society, that causes an imbalance. In the same way that within a body, I mean, if there's an imbalance, a hormonal imbalance within a body, it causes issues. So really, the disease that we are trying to solve with gender equality is to make sure that everything is just in balance. And I think, as you say, Web3 is the perfect place in which to try and do things better, and emphasis on try, because we'll probably fail. I mean, nothing that ultimately gets achieved is achieved easily or is achieved quickly. So, probably for a long time to come, we will continue to fail, but we have to try. Because if we don't, if we say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it, let time heal itself, well, then it's just going to keep on going on at the rate that it's already going. Yeah. So, thank you to you, and thank you to everyone out there that is really doing this important work.
Yeah, I think the part that I always believe in, that even way when I started, my book, I talk about work-life balance, I talk about perfecting the balance between motherhood and business success. I think the same thing goes like what you have pointed out, right? It just hit me really, really hard that Mother Nature is created. There's a day, there's a night, right? there's a
Yeah.
land and sea, right? So why is it created with this both? Why is there fire? Why is there water? There's always an opposite, right? Because that's how the universe is creating the world, especially as human beings. We are created, every creation, there's always a balance. Even Mother Nature, if you take away the predators, the prey will there will be manifested too many, right? So you
Yeah.
cannot take away
Yeah.
any
Exactly.
component. So in Web3, the same. If you include women in, you basically have a balanced economy, right? And why the world is having so much problem? Because we have too much on one side and too little of the other side. And as you look at a lot of country, why some country are prospering very well? Because they have that equality, they have that balance. And just now, you talk about equality, right? I think my definition, I do not know whether you agree with me, is that when we talk about equality, and this is what we are taught in school, equality means 50-50, right? But in the real world, you don't need to have 50-50 to have that equality. Like in my family, right? My wife and I'm more 70% family, 30% work. But my wife is the reverse. She find more satisfaction from work, from the praises of bosses, 70%. Does not mean that she's neglecting family. It's just that it makes her happy. So when she has that 70% appraisal from her work, she feel happy. She still do the 30%. She's happy. She's good, balanced. And for my case, if I achieve 70% family and 30% work, I need to find ways to pivot. I need to find ways to outsource. I need to find ways to automate my business, right? Then I'll be happy. So when husband and wife are happy, who will be happier? The children. So this is like a visceral, the ripple effect that we can see. The same thing goes with whatever when we talk about equality. Sometimes we are too hard on 50-50. You must have 50% like women in the tech space, you must have 50 here, 50 there. But if you realize, do we need that much, right? Right. That's my question. And
No, no, I 100% agree with you. And also, just to kind of add on to what we were talking about earlier, within one woman, there might be certain traits and characteristics that are typically, let's call it female, the stereotypical, oh, women are soft, they are caring, they are kind, they are stay-at-home mothers, they are 100% family, and then the man has to go out there and be 100% work and, bring home the bacon kind of thing. I think what one of the most freeing experiences, like on a societal scale, that I've seen in my lifetime is the ability, as women's live continue to progress and women had the ability to do whatever the hell it is I want to do, men have started realizing that they can do the same. So you're saying that you're far more, let's call it family oriented, home life oriented than your wife is. Even as I say this, the societal conditioning, I can feel it viscerally in my body because it's still the legacy that has come with us, right? So, this idea of 50-50, for sure, it's just a metaphorical, proverbial. Ultimately, people should do what it is that they want to do. I think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, if you want to be a lawyer, no person is going to question, oh, you're a man, you're a lawyer, of course. I mean, it makes complete sense. However, if you tell your family you want to be a male nurse, it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. Are you sure? Is this not just a role for women? So similarly, I mean, vice versa with women as well. So I think this is one of the things that I'm the most excited by and I think this is what's going to happen in our lifetime, because it certainly is happening in our lifetime right now. So I look at my son, I mean, his view of the world, being 20 years younger than me, is completely, completely different to boys that I grew up with at that age. He sees the world in such a different, way more equal way. And for him, I mean, he's actually, because I'm also very much like your wife, work is kind of what gives me purpose and meaning. I don't want to stay home. I don't want to cook. Like, I mean, I get takeout, and if there's no takeout, I'll rather go hungry, but the kitchen's not the place for me. Whereas for him, I mean, he loves cooking. So the dynamic, even in our household, is if you look at
balance.
it traditionally, it
Mm.
looks like, oh, what's going on
Yep.
here? Is she wearing the pants in the house? And he's but that has changed and it's beautiful. And I think this is also going to translate into business. Whereas still now, if you look at women, you look so if I meet someone and I tell them that I have a business, the more often than not, I'm not talking about other professionals, I'm talking about people out in society. Oh, that's really cute. Like that's kind of good for you. You're a working woman. But we want to get to the point where people meet us on an even level. Now, this doesn't mean that every way has to be 50% women, 50% men. In future, we might have current female dominated industries that will be more men than women. I mean, women, there are more men that enjoy cooking than there are women. So why do we have this idea that women are the ones who cook? There are men who are fantastic teachers. So why do we have this idea that only women are good teachers?
Yep.
So I think a lot of the traditional
Stereotype or to
societal
put, yeah.
roles and gender roles are being flipped on its head, which is really exciting, and I'm very happy for
Yeah,
it.
like what you mentioned about your son, I think that the same thing applies to my daughter because they are so connected in the digital world. Gender, everything really does not matter to them because it's about the
Not at
connection with
all.
everyone, right? Because for them, they are living in the digital world. It's all about this entity, digital entity, whether they can resonate, do they have the same interest, do they love drawing? Like my daughter basically learned
Yeah,
her animation, her illustration, everything online with this interest group that she has on Tumblr. And Tumblr is not really big in Asia, but she's in that world, right? Totally different world, different disconnected from our traditional world. But I think the key thing, right, that I think to really go to the future of Web3, right, which is the topic of this episode. But I think it's fundamental to know what is our current landscape before we can move forward, which is the challenges and stuff like that. I think a lot of time, the traditional mindset we have to put aside because it's not going to help us to move into the future, right? Second thing is, I think the other thing that we point out is we have to really audit ourselves what is best for us, regardless of gender. Like if I'm a male, I love cooking, I love to be a house husband, let me be, right? And if
exactly.
you are so affected by the society, the norms, then this is something that you need to work on yourself, right? Your confidence, your self-esteem, these are all personal development, which is not really focused on, right? And why I'm so confident of what I'm doing because I invested a lot into my personal development because me being a male in this women environment championing women, definitely I will face a lot of backlash from others, even women themselves, right? And how am I going to pick myself up and tell myself that this is the right way? Because I'm focusing on the people who are supportive, like you, like the 20 guests that come on Women in Web3, they're supporting of me. Whereas there are also other women that say, who are you to really be that? But if they do not know me, then please try to know what I've done, right? Because I'm not a male that is just saying and talk about it. I'm walking the talk, I'm showing and spotlighting actively every single day. And just now you talk about the female dominated environment. And this is some one of the aha moment I had having doing this podcast, right? In one of the episode, I had this aha moment where I realized why am I so passionate about helping women? Because I was in this female dominated environment like the marketing, like advertising, like media. All my bosses are female. All the top ranks are all female, right? And I'm the only guy in my team. Even in my whole department, my whole sales department, there are only 5 guys among the 50, 60 women, right? So and why I would resonate with women in tech, in entrepreneurship, because these are all male dominated environment. And I myself in a female dominated environment, I felt excluded, right? I felt not supported. And this is the same feeling that women in
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, in business, in tech, in Web3 are feeling it. That's why, although I've been through the worst, I even went through depression of in that environment, but that gave me a purpose for me to really help women because of what I've been, right? A lot of women that question my authenticity, my intention, my agenda, because they do not know that I was in the environment since young, right? I have two younger sisters. I have a lot of female cousins. I studied fashion. I was the only guy in my class and all that stuff.
I didn't know you studied fashion.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
very
that's a fun fact.
interesting.
Yeah, that's a fun fact. So that's why I understand women for almost all my life. And now in this space, so a lot of people do not understand until like when we did our first call, you understood because I share my story, and that is not the whole story yet. It's just the past 6 to 7 years of me doing this. So I think it's also important for us to understand the current landscape and how we can move into the future. So that's where it also brings us to the topic of this episode. And can you share with us what is your insight, because you have been in this space for many years, coming 7 to 8 years, and the Web3 startup that scene that you've been starting. So what is your insight looking forward into the future of Web3, especially this coming 2024?
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer. I'm just gonna add something to your previous question, but then use this as a lead-in to the current question, or not your previous question, rather your statement that you just made. I think what you said is incredibly important. That everyone experiences in some domain of their life what it means to be excluded, what it means to be rejected, what it means to be the other, right? And I think this is very, very important. And I'll get to how that links to Web3 just now. From a psychological and evolutionary perspective, I mean, neurobiological perspective and a psychological perspective, there's no greater threat to our well-being and even our very existence than to be excluded from things. I mean, in order for us historically to have been kept safe, we needed to be part of the tribe. If you were not part of the tribe, you were out there by yourself, braving the elements, braving predators, braving, whatever is going to come your way. But if you were part of a tribe, you knew that, you would be taken care of and you would also be taken care of others. So how does this link to Web3? I mentioned earlier that when I got into the industry, it's really the philosophical underpinnings that got me. That was my aha moment. That was like, wait, what? We have this beautiful alternative and we're not using it? Like, okay, but back then I think my thoughts were not, we're not using it. Back then my thoughts were, oh my God, we're gonna do this, we're gonna change the world. Um, yeah, it's the burden of youth that you think that the hopes and dreams that you have will come true as easily as they come to you. But I think what I see as the future of Web3 is that we need to get to a point where we understand why there is a Web3. Because now with Bitcoin price rising rapidly, the altcoin season is going to start again, and soon we're going to find ourselves back in a bull market. What does that mean? And I think for me, that's the biggest question, and it's always been the biggest question. If Web3 is simply a space where during the bull market, there's a lot of stupid money flowing because people want to earn the kind of profits that they're seeing from influencers on YouTube, that they're seeing on Telegram groups. I was quite shocked the other day, actually. A friend of mine who's not in the crypto industry.
Hi Nadia, are you still there?
Can
Hey,
I? Me?
okay, yeah,
I think you
you're
lost
back.
me. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So my friend added me to a group on Telegram. And it was, I mean, as soon as I joined, I saw it was a scam, like immediately. And I was so shocked that not only did she not think to ask, hey, please check this out, but she thought it was such a great opportunity, knowing that I work in the industry, that she added me to the group. Like, hey, look at this. It's so cool. People are making so much money. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly the kind of horror story that, I'm in this industry to try and avoid. And then when it happens so close to home. So I think really the question is, if we're looking to the future of Web3, what is there a Web3? Is there a Web3 because it's a pyramid scheme and a few people want to make a lot of money at the cost of everyone else? Then I think the future of Web3 is terrible and bleak, and I hope that there's no more Web3. Because why we are here is we know what the mistakes were in the other industries. earlier we spoke about being excluded. When you talk about inclusivity, for me, inclusivity is if I didn't choose to be born a certain gender, if I didn't choose to be born a certain race, if I didn't choose to be born in a certain geography, if I didn't choose to be disabled, I mean, I can go on and on. If I didn't choose those things, then why are you excluding me? There are a lot of things that I have power of choice over, and I am very willing, maybe not always so willing, but theoretically always willing to carry the responsibility for it. But those are choices that I've made, maybe informed choices, maybe ill-informed choices. But to exclude me based off of things that I have no control over, now that's exactly what the previous systems have done. The global financial system works exactly in this way. So the Web3 industry, blockchain technology, even cryptocurrency, it has the potential for us to do things differently going forward. So I think for me, more than saying what I predict it's going to look like, it's such an open question at this point. Because I think what we need to do is we need to take this responsibility upon ourselves. We need to say, look, I want there to be a future in Web3. If we look at the adoption of AI over the last year, if we look at the amount of attention that AI has gotten, the amount of real world utility that AI has gotten, you can walk out your door right now. I don't care where you are in the world, walk out your door, start speaking to random people and see how many people are you going to speak to before someone knows anything about AI. I can almost predict, unless you live in a rural, part of your country, probably it's not going to be too many people. There's not going to be 6 degrees of separation between you and AI, right? Like people are aware of what's going on and they're using it. Now, replicate, do A/B testing, do it with Web3. How many people, random people on the street, do you need to speak to before they have ever even heard of Web3? Before they think that cryptocurrency is anything but a scam? And that they understand the first thing about what blockchain technology is about. So I think, it's so easy to get carried away because if you look at the difference between a startup, for example, and a corporate is very structured. They have massive amounts of resources, but that's also why they're the dinosaurs. They move slow, it's very systematic. Whereas a startup needs to be agile. You need to be on your feet. You need to pivot at any given moment. And so as an industry, we're a startup industry. We're not a corporate structure industry. I mean, it's maturing, but anything goes. There's a lot of innovation. We're all making amazing discoveries. Groundbreaking work potentially can be done. But then we need to navigate and we need to balance and juggle all of these things at the same time. And I think the issue with Web3 is because the lack of education is leading to promises being made to people who don't understand that those promises are false because they don't understand anything. That's a danger. And as people in Web3, I mean, I see this as a personal responsibility. I see this as the universe sent out like bat signals and I answered. And that's what I'm doing with my life, is to make sure that, look, I want there to be this technology in future. I want this industry to exist in future. But I can't say that it should if we are not going to do things the way that it should be done, right? If we're only going to use this technology to exploit others, then really it should come to an end. Like the technology should come to an end. What are we using it for? We know how badly things have failed in other industries. So let's not replicate. And so, yeah, really, I don't have a prediction. I have an open invitation that the future of Web3 is going to be whatever all of us collectively is going to turn it into.
Wow, that's a lot. I think for a lot of people to really visualize, right? What is the future of Web3 going to be? Because it's a collective thing. And I think the other thing that you mentioned about is the education part. I think there are so-called educators, right, that is out in the market that is not educating people the right way. They have their own agenda. They have their own um, purpose, right, to really make money out from all these people that they are following, right? And one example, I have a friend who just jumped into buying NFT without knowing why she's buying, just because someone told her, someone reputable told her, and she so buy into this person's philosophy, right? That she can make money from it, because this person's NFT is going to be valuable in the next 2 to 3 years. I was like, these are
Haven't we
things that,
heard that before?
yeah, we heard that again and again, and I know what it's going to be, right? For example, like recently, she bought some of the Ethereum about a month ago, and now we know, because of Bitcoin, because of the ETF and all that, the market is going up for at least 5 to 10%. Right? For me, I benefited from it because I've been studying it, been doing it for a while, and I told her that now is an opportunity for you to sell off the NFT, because the value had gone up. And she said, oh, I should listen to this person. This person say I have to keep it for another 1 to 2 years. I was thinking, like you don't even have the basic understanding of investment at all, and you're jumping into this, hoping, right? The word is hoping, that this NFT will increase in value. Then you are on the wrong track. That this is why a lot of people got burned, right, in the past 2 to 3 years, because of this naive thinking of following another person, not having the due diligence or being educated in that. And that's why all these people are baiting on all these people. I won't blame them, but I would say that they have their own intention. They have their own optimistic thinking, that whatever they build is going to create the value, that the people that they want to help will benefit from it. But this is just a, what do you call that, assumption, right? That is not based on anything, right? And anything can change in this 1 to 2 years. Like the startup that you have mentored, that you guys have invested, they can sell you all their dreams, but when you come to do
Yeah.
it in the first 2 years, and when COVID hit, you know that a lot of startups failed, a lot of startup exited. Why? Because
Mhm.
they, without the funding, they cannot continue to operate or function, right? So these are all the uncertainty. The only certain is now, where I know that now I can have 10% profit gain from my investment. I should exit, but I should be educated enough to enter it again. So this is applied to every part of Web3, be it metaverse, be it AI, be it VR, AR. Like now, a lot of people, a lot of startup founders are jumping on the AI bandwagon, right? Thinking that everything is
If
about
it
AI.
moves, put AI on it.
Yeah, like everything, even big corporations are putting AI for the sake of putting AI on it, right? But
Yeah.
does your business
It's the new
even,
Web3. Like before you were cool if you had a Web3 element, now you're cool if you're an AI
yeah,
element.
not like,
It comes and it goes.
if you are cool with NFT, you are cool with NFT. You are cool with metaverse, you are cool with metaverse. But if you realize, right, running a business, right, it goes back to running a business. These are just tools, right? Like
Yeah.
before social media, before even live streaming, right, we are just going out there to talk to people, right? We will get a stage, we go to event, in-person event, to present, right, to interview, until digital comes in, until digital videography comes in, digital photography comes in, then everything is going digital. Like you mentioned, right? Marketing is now digital. You don't even have to say digital marketing, right? So in
Exactly.
future, we don't even have to say Web3. We just have to say the internet, right?
But then what are we going to do with the names of our podcasts and our YouTube shows if we don't use the terms Web3 and NFTs? Because I think that's one of the funny things about being in this industry is there's so many acronyms that
Yep,
we think are inclusive, but actually it's excluding a lot of people because they look at these terms. I mean, I'm very well aware of it. Like you said, my show, The Future of NFTs.
yep.
I mean, I don't want people to stop using the term NFTs because I have a vested interest in the fact that, they should call it NFTs because that's how I differentiate what I'm talking about.
Mm,
But I mean, on the other hand, I want to backtrack a little bit. you said, the story that you told me. Um, I think one of the cruel ironies of being in Web3 is fundamentally it is, or it should be, and foundationally, it's all about empowerment. But what very often happens is because people have a lack of understanding, because they have a lack of insight and a lack of education. I think education is a loaded word, so I want to come back to it. But because people don't have that, they hand their agency over to others that they think know more and understand more than them. So I think it's so important that what you said about each person having their own prerogatives, because when someone is talking to you about something, why? Like you and I had a conversation before we got on the show about following the money. And I think, this applies. I mean, most of the time it ultimately is about money, but even when it's not about money, follow the money proverbially. Understand why people are doing certain things and not doing others. So if you truly want to keep yourself safe, know that you should develop the agency. If you don't understand, so for example, I'm going to give you a very, very concrete example. I don't understand crypto trading because I've never studied it. I'm not interested in studying it. So you know what? I don't trade. Like it's as simple as that for
That's
me.
it, right?
If
Yeah,
I
that's
want to
it.
start trading, I'm going to start learning about it. And it might not be easy and it might not be instant, but until I feel that I am personally comfortable enough to play with my money, to gamble with my money, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to speak to someone else that I perceive as being this, expert. It's like the stereotypical financial advisor, right? You get a huge windfall. The old lady has her life savings. She gives it to the financial advisor. And oh man, sorry, the stock markets just didn't perform. So sorry, what can we do? It's all gone. You know, that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to move away from. So if you don't have enough agency right now, it doesn't mean that you never will. Everything is not for everyone. Not everyone has to trade, for example. I feel super comfortable not trading. Although there's so many people that think crypto is synonymous with trading. So how are you in crypto and you're not trading? Well, because there's so much else to do. So I think it's really important if you are going to, especially when it comes to money. If you are going to put down money for something, I mean, do you buy like an expensive purchase without researching it? If you do, that's on you because maybe you don't know how to research it, but you should know that you should research it. So I think again, this is the delicate balance in Web3 is on one hand, we say that, oh, it's empowering people. But is it? If the only thing that we are talking about is you can get this, you can earn that, you can, because that's like the shiny object that we are
Yeah.
dangling in front of people. And then we say, do your own research. What does that mean? If I know nothing about the financial industry, if I know nothing about technology, what does it mean to do my own research? I don't know how to do my own research.
You don't
Maybe I
even know
did
how to
my
start,
research.
right?
My research was bad, right? So I think like this is something again that we as people in the industry really need to safeguard. These headphones are driving me crazy. We really need to safeguard this because we are putting the onus of responsibility onto people that know nothing. And then we say, oh, that guy's so stupid. That woman didn't think. Yeah, well, duh, of course not, because they have no idea what's going on. So it really is a collective responsibility. I mean, there's so much personal responsibility that comes into play, but keeping in mind that we don't hail from a society where there was a lot of self-empowerment. We don't come from a background all across the world where people had the agency to make decisions based on what's best for them. People are used to following orders. They are used to deferring responsibility to others. They are used to looking up at the leaders and the experts and the gurus and believing what they say. And this is where Web3 comes in and says, hey, you can be that person. You can be that person to yourself. You can be that person to others. And then there's a peer-to-peer exchange because I might know things that you don't, but you certainly know things I don't. So rather than us saying there's a hierarchy of I'm here and you're there and that person's there, no, we're all floating in different bubbles. And the beauty of humanness But the beauty of this industry, because this industry promotes that, is that these bubbles float in space, they bump up against each other. There's a weird soapy chemical reaction, and and then we make something beautiful together. So I think that's really, really important to highlight is you might not know or understand now, but then take the next step. There's so many people willing to give time to offer advice, especially in person. I think it's maybe more difficult online. But if you're able to attend an event in your area, there's always events happening somewhere. And you know what? If there's no events happening, why don't you organize one? You don't have to be an expert. If you want to learn about it, organize the event, bring the people together, and then learn. But there's always ways and means in order to inject more agency into your own life. And I think that's the only way that Web3 is truly going to come into its own, is if people internalize the self-empowerment, the ownership, the decentralization of it. Otherwise, we're just going to have the old industries with a new coat of paint. And that's definitely not why I'm here. So yeah, I'm holding thumbs, or this is not thumbs, but yeah, good luck to all of us that it's going to work out well.
Wow, wow, that's a lot, and time really flies. In fact, we kind of like overrun a bit, but do you still have like 5-10 minutes?
Yeah,
Because I would just want
absolutely.
to
It
cut.
always happens when you and I talk. We always run completely over time. So
Yeah,
that's a sign that it's a really good conversation.
yeah, because it's very valuable, and I think since it's the final episode of this season, right, I really want to put out a few points that you mentioned, right, about responsibility, and most people they defer the responsibility to someone else, like the guru, like the expert, and everything. And the other thing that I learned from this, I believe that you know him, which is Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He talks
Yeah.
a lot about accountability, right? So a lot of people are just pushing all the accountability to someone. So, oh, this guru tell me this, I follow this guru, and I should make money. But the problem is, even a firework will know, right? When you invest, there's risk, right? Invest in something that you do not know, you're not educated, then why should you invest? Like you mentioned, right? If you do not know much about crypto trading, then don't trade unless and
Yeah.
empower yourself, take the responsibility to learn it or even to master it until you feel comfortable. Then you invest rather than hearing someone and push that responsibility to someone, and anything fails, oh, he's the one. For example, we know about the big FTX issue, right? So that is a human problem. But when you invest into something, you know that it's high risk, super high risk. And if you're putting your whole savings, your mortgages on it, who's to blame, right? You can only blame yourself for not taking the responsibility to do your due diligence. All we can say is maybe because of greed, because of desperation, but there are other alternative, right? So it's the lack of financial literacy, a lot of stuff, right? But I would
Yeah, I
say the
mean
key thing.
there's something that just came up for me. My
mm,
grandmother used to drill this into probably everyone in her environment's heads. If it's too good to be true, it's not true.
yep.
And so exactly what you say about, whether it's desperation, whether it's greed, but this is not the way the world works. Because you're desperate, the world doesn't rise up to give you exactly what you want at the moment you want it. It would be fantastic if it worked that way. I mean, we would all love it for sure. But the reality is it's not how it works. So you might need the money, but just because someone is, it's almost like the leprechaun at the end of the rainbow with a pot of gold. I mean, if I tell you today, oh, I'm going to buy a new car tomorrow because tonight I'm going like rainbow hunting and I'm going to get that leprechaun and I'm going to take his gold. I mean, you would think that I belong in an institute of some sort. But then why, when people are coming to you saying, hey, give me X amount and you're going to make it, 100x back. Why do you not see that as the leprechaun? Because it's the same thing. So essentially, you don't have to, in the beginning, especially if it goes beyond greed and it goes beyond desperation, which it should, because if you're in it for the greed or the desperation, you're gonna get burned. I can guarantee you that right now. Mark my words, if you're in it for greed or desperation, down the line, you will be sorry. It's as simple as that, because that's not the emotional states from which anyone should be doing anything. But if you're interested, take a more measured approach. You can literally intern an hour of your time each week with any freaking company out there. Everyone that you ask, or maybe not everyone, but a lot of companies that you ask, startups especially, would welcome the help. You would get to see how things work from the inside. The amount of time investment, would be up to you. It could be 1 hour. You could become a new team member of the team. You don't know what's out there. What you should know though is it's gonna take a lot more swimming from your part to meet the boat. The boat, I mean, if you know anything about how anything works, big ships don't come to the beach because it's not possible, right? If they're at the beach, it means that it's a shipwreck. So if you're waiting for the ship to come meet you on the beach, forget about it. Start strengthening your muscles so you can swim out to meet it. And then who knows? Then you're in the open sea. Then you can go anywhere around the world. You can circumvent the whole planet, or you can go to the bay over there. It's completely up to you, but it is going to be up to you to get to where it is you're going. So, yeah, definitely greed, desperation, deal with it in other ways. Don't deal with it by parting with your money. You know what they say about a fool and their money being easily parted? The other flip side to that is that there are predators out there looking for fools. So don't feel like you are the one that's at fault. There are people who literally make it their jobs to exploit you. But what you should do is you should shield yourself as much as possible by empowering yourself through education and through experience as much as possible.
No, thanks a lot for that great advice. I think this will benefit a lot of listeners for those who are tuning in to really understand what they should do in regardless of any new things, right? Any new things, be it Web3, be it crypto, be it anything, right? You just have to take that responsibility and be educated and then be accountable for it, right? There's only so much that we can say, but if you want to take the risk, be responsible, be accountable for it, and don't blame anyone but yourself, right? So just do your due diligence. I think that's the most important thing. So having said that, right, we are coming to the end of the show, and I want to wrap it up with this, which is, what do you see the role of women in Web3 playing in shaping the future of businesses and society? Because we talk a lot about the society, the business, and what would you see the roles of women playing in shaping the future of
Yeah, I
businesses?
mean, so I think coming back to what you said earlier about women adding different dimensions to things, a lot of what we see in Web3, and we'll see it again very shortly once the bull market starts, are things that make you go, huh? What? Why does that exist? And those are, yeah, exactly to this point that we were just discussing. Those are typically the projects that, take your money and then disappear with it. But I always think about it, traditionally speaking, even when women were not working and they were at home, the husband would work and he would come back, but the woman would control the finances in the house because she had the household to run. So he might be out there working all day, earning the money, but she knows that every month, X amount of potatoes need to be bought, and this needs to be done, and that needs to be done. And so women have, in a lot of ways, a more measured approach to things. And also linking back to what we were discussing earlier about women feeling like they need to be overqualified in order to, contribute anything meaningful. So I think I really see a very beneficial role being played there, almost like a layer of due diligence, because there's a reason that marketers and advertisers advertise almost everything to women, because women are very stereotypically, but at the same time, very still effectively true, the ones that make a lot of decisions for themselves, for their families, for their loved ones. And I think we need more guardianship in Web3. We need a more maternal approach. sometimes it's a maternal energy that is loving and kind and supportive, and we need that. And other times, speaking as the mother of a teenager, you need to channel your inner dragon, and your fire needs to come out. And if you're going to get anywhere close, you're going to get burnt. And I think those are the contributions that are really important, because especially now as we head into a market that is going to be on the upswing, I don't think we've learned anything. Like, I wish I could sit here and say, after 2 years of being in this bear market, oh, we're going to do things differently. A couple of months ago, I think it was when Pepe came out, we had a momentary upswing. And immediately you saw exactly the same behavior being replicated, that we had in the previous bull market. So I think nothing will change. What needs to be done, I love this quote. I don't remember who the quote is by or even exactly what the quote is, but it's something along the lines of, don't wait for change to happen. There's also be the change you want to see in the world, but I was actually thinking of another one. If you're waiting for change to come to you, it's not going to happen. If you want change, you need to embody the change. So don't focus on what is broken. Focus on what you want to do differently. Really, that be the change you want to see in the world. And so I think in Web3, the role that women have to play, among many other things. I mean, I'm focusing, I want to differentiate here between women as humans. So as humans, women have as much a role to play in any number of ways as men do, but specifically from the female perspective, I think we need more of that maternal guardianship. And that doesn't mean you need to be a woman necessarily. I mean, I see you as that maternal energy, in the sense that you are guarding the well-being of women in Web3. So it's not a gender thing. I think it's more equality. There are women who are not this, and there are men who are exactly this. So I think it's more an archetypal sort of role that we need to play, and that we need to have more of, so that I love this approach of, like, explain it to me like I'm five. um if you can explain it to me in the simple possible way, then not only will I get it, but it means you get it.
Yep.
And similarly, I think we should have an explain it to me like I'm five due diligence that's happening. Okay, you're building this product, you're raising this amount of money. Everyone, the VCs, the retail investors, they all just like have, dollar signs, disco dancing in their eyes. But then people need to come in and say, okay, wait, explain it to me like I'm five, and why? And I feel like it's much easier to have conversations like this with women who really get down to the bottom line of something. I mean, if you're juggling so many different things, don't come with the fluff. Just come with why this is. Like, what am I supposed to be doing with this? So yeah, I think there's a big role, a big place for women. And certainly I want to say in closing that if you're a woman, uh, either already working in this industry or really just considering it, um, I promise you there's a place for you. Because if you think about any other industry, I'll give an example. I used to work in the pharma industry. I used to work in medical research. I used to work in the marketing. I don't have a background in pharmacology. I've never studied it. I know as much as I know from self-study, but I don't have formal qualifications. I was mentioning this to someone yesterday. When I worked in pharma, every other person that I spoke to or met or worked with had a degree in pharmacology. And there I am. Oh, I'm psychology. Uh, you know, but so be it, because I wasn't there to do the role that they were doing. I was there to fulfill my role. And so the question is, what do you want to do? That's the question you should start with. Not what don't I know, what don't I understand. What do you want to do? And then see how Web3 can support you, because we need more people. We need good people. We need people with a reason to do things differently. Maybe it's because you want to empower your own life. Web3, as a woman, as a single mother especially, I cannot tell you how empowering Web3 has been to me as a single mother. I have been traveling the world with my son for years. We have an amazing life. Yeah, no, maybe we would have had that life anyway. I mean, we certainly did have that life before. But the difference was that I worked in other industries that did not offer me the possibility to lead the lifestyle that I do. And so, whatever your situation is, Web3 likely can make things easier for you. But don't fall prey to the mentality that you need to know it all, understand it all. Reach out for help, ask others, connect with others. You don't have to ask for help as a, hey, you're here, I'm here. Learn with people, learn with other people that don't know anything either, and you peer to peer teach each other and yourselves. This is the best way to get anything done, but especially in Web3, we are still really early. It doesn't always feel that way if you're coming in and there's such background and so much history and so much has already been done. Really, there are a lot of people who've never even heard of blockchain in their lives. They've never heard the word blockchain. So that tells you how early we are. Get in. The time is now. If the time is not now, it's tomorrow, whenever you are ready. But don't think that readiness should feel like, okay, now you know it all, because then you're going to wait forever. And this applies to all of life, but certainly Web3. Just get in now, get stuck in, start building, because we're building this. This is a sandbox environment. No one has it figured out. We're literally making it up as we go along, for better or worse. And I would like it to be better. So I invite good people to come join me and let's build this together.
Yeah, I like the part where you say to invite good people to come in because we need a lot of goodness. Definitely, there are people who has ill intentions or for their own benefit to make money out from it, or to prey on people who are greedy, right? But I think we need more good people to come in because the power is in everybody's hand, right? So if we have more good people, the space will be better. And also, I think you have shared a lot, given very, very good advice, especially for women. Definitely, there will be a space, a way for them to come in. I think this is where she can connect with us, especially for you, so that it can resonate with you. So, how can they get connected with you, Nadia?
Yeah, so I have the link tree that's up there that links to all of my social media. I think the best place would be LinkedIn and Twitter. That's the two places that I'm the most active on. And yeah, I mean, I'm always happy. Like I feel extremely passionate about just having conversations like these. It's not always super scalable when it's a one-on-one, simply because like I'm literally don't have time for my own thoughts. Which is why it's so much easier to have conversations like this, because of course it scales a little bit better. But I would also say, you know, connect with me, but connect with so many other people, because there's
Mm,
so many people out there. So don't be afraid to just reach out. And you might get a response from someone, you might not get a response. Just do from your side what is needed to start establishing connections, because it has a snowball effect. Once you
yep.
start connecting, it's from one person to the other. And before you know it, you have a circle of friends that you both are learning together, you are working together, but you also care for each other as people. And what a gift for an industry to be able to give you this. Yeah, so I hope that there was something in today's conversation that was insightful. As I said, I'm actually not as I said, but I can give a disclaimer here. I'm terrible at responding to messages. Everyone knows this, even my family. So it not be the easiest thing for me to have like an extended one-on-one conversation, but reach out. And especially if we have things like this where you're able to ask questions, I think, again, not only with me, but there's so many opportunities out there to listen to people speak about things. And attending an event like this, being able to ask questions, that's really, really valuable. The amount of access that you get to insight and to knowledge and to wisdom.
Wow, that thanks a lot for sharing on that. And for those who want to get connect with Nadia, you can put it in the chat also. And there are also some questions that some of the audience from LinkedIn on other platform they also post. So I hope Nadia will be able to answer that. So just keep your questions coming along, and we will try our best to answer them. And I like the part where you say to keep on learning, right? Connecting from one person to another person, which is exactly what this podcast is all about. It started from one guest, and now you are the 20th guest, and I have the guest list for season 2, right? So if you are really interested, that you will find a way. Like for me, I'm interested in hearing more about women in Web3, understand more about Web3. Now I'm 20 brains more, right? Learning from all these amazing women in Web3 and get to understand what are the challenges and struggles. So you can do that too. Having said that, once again, I thanks Nadja for making time in your busy schedule to share this. And this really makes a very good wrap up for season one with 20 episodes. Stay tuned for season two, where we will have even more amazing conversation, spotlighting on women in Web3. But before we wrap up, I still have to do this tradition, which is what will be your question of the day for the next guest?
I feel like this is the most difficult question you've asked me today. Um, when is season two starting?
In 2024, once I have 20 guests, I will kickstart most likely maybe after the Chinese New Year in March, but it will be in 2024.
So it'll be interesting to see how the landscape has changed by that time, as it always does. Yeah, so I think I'll pass on the baton and ask, why is Web3 important? Because we say it is, but why is it really? Are we saying it because, we believe in it because we're invested in it, or do we have the right to be so invested and to be so passionate? So why is Web3 important?
Okay, so I'm thinking to add on, right? Why is Web3 really important? I was just thinking on that.
Really,
That was,
really important.
yeah, really important, right? So I think this question goes out
Or
to the next. Yeah.
maybe not even important, but why is it relevant even?
Mm.
I think that's maybe even a better question. Why is Web3 relevant? Because AI seems very relevant.
Mm.
Is Web3 relevant? I think
Mm.
maybe I'll modify the question a little bit.
Okay, can. So let me just so the question of the day posted by Nadia to the next guest is, why is Web3 relevant? So this question goes out to the next guest, the first guest for the season two. So next guest in season two, first guest, do stay tuned. And get ready for this question of the day posted by Nadia. And once again, thanks Nadia for sharing all the amazing insights, your experience, even for the future, how it's going to be. Although it's an open-ended question, right? Like it's really open for everyone to come in collectively. So thanks again for sharing all that. And for those who are tuning in, thank you for watching Women in Web3 podcast, that we spotlight women trailblazing in this space, in the Web3 space. So if you have any questions, just do feel free to post it and share it with us in the comments. And for those who want to see more, there will be highlights that will be putting out. So just stay tuned. So once again, thanks Nadia for making time. I know we have overrun a lot, but really appreciate your time. I believe that these are really, really good values to really wrap up season one. So once again, thanks a lot, Nadia. And I shall see you guys
So,
in the
so,
next
so
season.
Kenneth,
Yep.
because it's the end of the season, let me finish. Let me have the last word by telling
All right.
you thank you so much for all of the contributions that you are making to women in Web3, to women in tech, to women in business. As I said at the beginning, it's incredibly important to have male allies, and I respect you tremendously for the work that you are doing. Congratulations on 20 episodes. Here's to 20, 200, 2,000, however many more that you want to do. I think there's an appetite for a lot, but here's to so much more. I look forward to seeing this continue to grow and evolve, and I will continue to support you.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hit 100 episode at least. So, so that there are 100 women in Web3 that is being spotlighted. So, thanks again, Nadia, and I will see you guys in a new episode in 2024. See you guys. Thanks, Nadia. Thank you. Bye bye.